We've lost thousands of kids. It's like literally you're going to cut off his arm now because of a concept. You know, like I would tell parents, like, even if the kid is wrong and they deserve, but they're 15. So they're going to lose their family and be scarred forever because of a mistake, and they're wrong. At 15, you're going to cut off. I said, they'd rather you cut off their arm than say you don't belong in this house. And of course, it's so difficult. What about the other kids? Rabbi Yaakov Bender, Shlita Zayin Gesund. He came to my group to speak to the parents. And right at the beginning, right before it started, he turned to me and he said, 10 years ago, we all thought you were crazy. And now we all know you're right.
What's like the most famous song you wrote?
Hearts of Gold.
Hearts of Gold. Hearts of gold, hearts of gold.
Okay, nobody's going to buy it now, but...
What's up, everybody? Do you smell that? Yeah, it's another episode of Meaningful People Podcast, and it smells awesome. Welcome back. We sat down with Avi Fishoff for this week's episode of Meaningful People. You may know him from Twisted Parenting, Home Sweet Home, the son of one of the sons of Benny Fishoff, Alav Shalom, and a book just came out from Art Scroll about. And Avi Fishoff, the author of this new masterpiece, which I am loving. I'm reading it every single Shabbos with my family. It's called Raising Royalty. It's all about parenting. It's all about how we treat our kids. And let me tell you this. Whether you're a parent, you plan on being a parent, you have children who will be parents, or you've been a parent, this episode is for you. So pretty much, I think I covered everybody. This is for you. It outlines such important lessons about how we should be treating our kids. What do we do in certain situations? And it's not just, oh, this is Avi Fishoff saying this. The amount of proofs that he brings from the Nesiva Shalom, from the Lubavitch Rebbe, from the Sava Rebbe, from Rav Shach, so many different Rabbanim and Gedolim of our time, who I was shocked at the things they say. What was I shocked about? You're going to have to wait till you see it in this episode. I think you're going to love it. I wanted to mention, first of all, make sure you leave a comment here on YouTube. I read through the comments. I respond to the comments. I love seeing you comment. Also, we have a new thing going on WhatsApp. We have a Meaningful Minute Plus WhatsApp group. It is free. You can join. We got 2,000 people already part of these groups. And what we have going on is a lot of content, but something really cool is that we have a lot of these meaningful people guests lined up. They're going to be coming on these groups, and we're going to have some Q&A text conversation going on in real time. And maybe you can be pulled up to the stage and be part of that conversation. So come hit the link in the description, join that group. A big announcement also, a big thank you to our friends at Alpert Associates, who is making a name change, a little rebrand going on to Ceremian, the new name of the Alpert and Associates company. Ceremian is all about bringing serenity to you when it comes to finances. For so many, finances is a scary topic. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to think about this. I'm so stressed out about it. You need to choose Ceremian. The same amazing work for Moshe Alpert, a new bright future with that name, comes through Ceremian. So make sure you reach out to him today at 718-644-1594 or email him at alpertmoshe@gmail.com. There's nothing that he can't do for you when it comes to finances, insurance, whatever it may be. It is worth the phone call you make. I guarantee that. Now enjoy this episode.
You are listening to the Meaningful People Podcast.
The podcast featuring our nation's most impactful, influential,
and meaningful people. Fun fact, when I was a young kid,
many years ago.
like 4 days ago. Yeah.
Oh, fine, you know, like I used to, like when I was really young, I'd be like, oh no, I'm so old. Yeah, no, I'm young. Hopefully. I'm still in my 20s, guys. But I remember sitting when I was definitely single, probably in high school. I was on YouTube and I stumbled upon a video of, I didn't know who you were at the time, but sitting, the microphone, like a nice logo in the background, talking about parenting, chinuch, as a young kid. And I was in yeshiva at the time. And the things you were saying were so ahead of its time. And I was like, I remember looking, and this is well before anything meaningful in my life.
There was no meaningful minute. There
Nothing.
was no meaningful person.
Nothing. I had meaningful people in my life, just not this meaningful people. But I remember
You were once just a regular citizen.
yeah,
Just Nachi.
regular redhead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little ginger.
Camp Monk guy, like me.
Yeah. Yes, Camp Monk. Oh man, we could talk about that too. But I remember watching you, and I'm like, I need to meet this guy. I don't know who he is. And I remember I took a screenshot and I sent it to one of my Rebbeim at the time. His name was Avi Goldenberg, who is the son of Leon Goldenberg. And he said, that's Avi Fishoff. I said, I know Chaim Fishoff, Camp Monk. I started like connecting dots. And then he sent me a link to like a WhatsApp group. And then I'm like, I've been on it since, seeing your talks and your videos. And more recently, I was by a couple of Shabbosim that you had, the honor of being at, a big part at and speaking at. And GPS for the Soul, CPR, now Raising Royalty, the new book you put out. I want to talk about this mahalach. I also remember when I was much younger, I was by an Aguda convention, and I saw you sitting with Shmuel Kamenetsky with parents. You were there with a couple of parents, and you were talking to Shmuel. And I want to hear, give me the inception of this breaking into the chinuch route for you, and let's talk about that.
All right. Okay, let's do it. So first of all, we're going to end off with this, because this is the end.
Yes.
This is Raising Royalty, and I want to talk about how I got here.
Sure.
To be able to have this collection.
For anyone that's listening and not watching, Avi's holding up a
People
regal...
are listening and not watching?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
Oh,
Found it.
so you don't see this whole thing.
Actually, someone was recently talking to me about it. More people listen than watch, I think, right?
Depends. I mean,
Varies.
I
Last
hear that.
episode we had.
You may
guess
want to
while-
see this book, though, because it's
while you're
regal.
driving.
While you're driving.
You don't want to be, too looking at a book and stuff.
Right.
It's malchustic, though, for those that can't see it.
I'm so happy about the way it came out, especially the name Raising Royalty and the malchustic look to it. And it's not me. It's not a chinuch book that I wrote. It's a collection of hundreds and hundreds of divrei Torah, authentic stories and sources and quotes of Gedolim throughout the ages. So you open up over here, whenever it's something I have, it's like in a different font, it's a true story, I peppered it in, put in a little bit, but it's you open up everywhere, on every page, almost every single page has, look at this. Oh, not if you're driving. Don't look.
Yeah.
Okay? Has this red thing here, it's a call out. Something from the page, and if you just look at the call outs, we have every gadol, Chavetz Chaim, Rav Yosef Rosenblum, Zatzal, Chutziagan Aleinu, Rav Koppelman, Chutziagan Binyamin Eisenberger, Shlita, Zayn Vishnitzer, Rebbe Satmer.
Binyamin wrote a forward, I think, for the
Binyamin
whole
wrote
book,
the forward. Right? He's always been with me. He wrote the forward to GPS, to CPR, and now to Raising Royalty. And Binyamin's a very big part of my life. It's a big schluss that I had to meet him and to be connected. And Shmuel Benita Etel, Shmuel Kamenetsky is my Rosh Yeshiva. Shlita. And when we're going to get to Home Sweet Home 20 years ago, I needed a Daas Torah. So I called my Rosh Yeshiva and I called him up and I said, I'm opening up a home for kids who are off the derech on drugs on the street. And I need to have a Daas Torah. And he was like, yeah, sure. Like that was that. And he's been holding my hand, since then, through everything. And he sent me a lot of parents. He wrote me a letter. He did a video. And he's always been with me together with the Nava Mitzvah Rebbes, Chutziagan Aleinu, and so many Rabbanim that I had the good fortune of working with.
Was that the inception? Was Home Sweet Home the beginning, or was that?
So here's the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning was like you were just a regular guy. I was just a regular dude. Okay. And each thing, it could be an episode. Okay. So I'll try not, how I opened Home Sweet Home. But bottom line is I thought of an idea in 2002, long time ago.
Yeah, I was like 7.
I saw Nachi at 7 years old and I said, somebody's got to help this kid. We don't want him to end up just being like,
Yeah.
we need
This is
him.
the big reveal. Nachi, you
were my
the
first Home Sweet
inspiration.
Home kid. You turned out really well.
Rodius.
No, we had rules in those days and we didn't accept any redheads. So you were out.
I feel you.
I saw what was happening and an idea crossed my mind that, we have kids starting at that point, it was just starting Jewish kids doing drugs. Like drugs are for goyim. Jewish kids grow up by us, they don't do drugs. Homeless kids on the street, kids stealing, all of that. So I came up with an idea. I'm going to open a home. We're going to call it Home Sweet Home. And I'm going to move these kids in. And I created a program in my mind. And when I went around, it was an interesting thing. I went around to everybody that I could who was already doing stuff, which there weren't that many people in those days who were really already doing stuff. I went to pick their brain to tell them, and everybody laughed at me. Like, okay, what's your experience? Like, maybe you should just mentor first, or get some kind of a coaching license, or become a somebody.
Be a dorm counselor.
I just want to open a parentheses really quick and highlight the historical context here, because whether it's on this podcast or in general, modern day information, there's so much work that is going on in this space.
Sure.
And I think it's so important to highlight and really amplify the historical context of the story you're telling right now. There was so little of this in the mainstream. Philly Talmud, right? Philly Yeshiva. We talk about very simply Reb Shmuel saying, yeah, I'll be the Daas Torah. We're talking about trailblazing a mahalach here, about an issue and about just realities that are going on that at the time people weren't willing to acknowledge it at all.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know why. I don't know why I was chosen. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me that I had this idea and how it came to fruition, which was crazy. And I actually opened up in March of 2003 and started moving in guys. And Home Sweet Home is a miracle.
Well, the people who were laughing at you, what was your reaction to that? I imagine many would be discouraged and be like, I guess it's not such a great idea. What pushed you to do it anyways?
I don't know. I just wanted to try. I get calls all the time from people out there that they have this idea, that idea. I say, you know what? I don't know if your idea is going to be at the end what you think it is now, but there's people drowning. Just jump in. Just do.
Yeah.
You want to open up this kind of program, that kind of program. You want to just do. There's so much to do. It's so sad. There's tens of thousands of struggling people. Do. Is it going to look like what you thought it's going to look like? Probably not. So you'll make changes along the way. But when I opened Home Sweet Home, it was a complete, like an experiment. And then one after another, the kids got clean the day they moved in. And surprisingly, they moved out 95% completely Shemitah Torah mitzvahs and part of our machna. Like they're wearing a hat, for example. Like hat, we're talking about guys eating on Yom Kippur. And then 8 months, 9, 10 months later, it was a year program at the end. I made it official a year, and they're keeping everything, and they want to look like us. That's the hat. That they want to look like the system that spit them out, or that they rejected, or whatever it was. That's like really returning back to your roots. They wanted to look like us, me, the mentors. They just wanted to look like us. So the program was so exceptional and so successful in the sense that not one overdose, not one suicide. Everybody who left, nobody went back to the street. And it was a short program. It was a year. And 95% Shemitah Torah mitzvahs. We have grandchildren from them. And the 5% that were not Shemitah Torah mitzvahs, we're not against Klal Yisrael. We're not against Yiddishkeit. They had their own personal things. And I tried to figure out, they would put on tefillin when they could. They would fast when they could. They were pro. They would learn when they could. They just didn't make it all the way back. And it took me many years to figure out, why did they not make it all the way back? What do they have in common? And it came out that they didn't have a home to go back to. So it's not like they did as well as everybody else on the last day. They're like, well, I don't have a home. It means from the beginning, feeling that I don't have a home to go back to, for whatever reason that each of them didn't have that prevented them from like just changing course and entering our machna and being a part of us. And that was like a blockage. And that's part of what made me realize the importance of parenting. In those days, we all thought I thought, I don't want to work with parents. I love these kids. I love these kids. When I met them and I interviewed them and I had to decide if they're going to come in, the angrier they were. I don't know. Hashem just gave me this feeling like I looked at them really like Zeus. Like, I get it. F you. I got it. Can we say that on this thing?
We just did.
Like, there were like 20 accidents just now, right? Was there all the people driving like, what?
They want the YouTube to watch.
Sorry, welcome to my world. I heard a lot of that. And, they were very, very angry. And I didn't take it personally. So one of the biggest tikkunim that happened for the boys, when did they really, change? what I realized looking back was when they defied me, when they broke the rules of the program, which they all did, and I didn't throw them out and I didn't discard them, I built a certain trust. Like one night, a kid ran away, and I went there and I waited at the dining room, and I just was waiting. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, the door opens up. The kid runs up the stairs like it was, the layout, the door, and then it's a little hallway and stairs. And like mid-run, he like spots me and he's like, busted. And I'm like, hey, I'm glad you're okay. Have a seat. He's like all uncomfortable. I'm like totally chilled. I'm like, you want a coffee? Are you tired? And I'm like, what happened? What's up? Let's talk about it. It was always us against whatever. They wrote the rules. So I could do a whole thing on how that worked. But the bottom line is, Home Sweet Home really should be reproduced. Other people should do it.
It was in Brooklyn. It was
in Brooklyn on the corner.
It's so funny. Usually, like someone would like go out to the mountains.
It was incredible. Hashem gave me the perfect home. How I got the guy to rent me a home for kids who are like that is a story, incredible story for a different time. I remember the first place I went to was a beautiful little home, and I went with a friend of mine, and I was looking at it, and they're going to Israel for a year. I wanted to rent for a year because I didn't know how long this is if it's gonna last or what's gonna happen. It's a nice little family, a nice little home, 3 bedrooms upstairs, like semi-detached house in the middle of Flatbush, right? And then I'm looking around and it's like, okay, so who is it for? And I'm like, what am I supposed to say? Well, I'm going to take your nice little home here while you're in Israel. I'm going to move in some drug addicts, quote unquote, guys using cocaine, but they're going to stop. And guys who stole everything, broke everything, got thrown out of home and rehabs. And I'm just going to move them. And I didn't prepare for the question. So they're like, so who's it for? And I'm like, and I like backtracking. I'm basically, get me out of here. I said, oh, it's for, I have like, and they're like looking at me like, what's, is it for you? Who's it for? I'm like, I have a friend and he has a brother and they're going to move in and they have some friends and
asking for a friend,
right? And they're like getting more and more pale. And I'm like, I got to go. I ran into my car, drove away. I'm like, who's going to rent me a house? And Hashem gave us a house, a beautiful house, and it was perfect for them. And volunteers came and it was a whole system and it worked. Now, here's what happened. It worked. From both sides of the aisle were questions. From the addiction world, okay, how do you get one after another, guys doing weed from morning to night, doing party drugs, doing cocaine. Guy did cocaine for 6 months and moved in September 14th, 2004. So you know who you are, right? He walked out clean, ad hayom hazeh, right? He's clean now. He's married. He's frum.
One day at a time.
He's a successful business owner. A relative of mine is working for him. At that time, he was homeless. He was locked out of home. Like, so the addiction world is like, okay, so you use AA, NA, no. Who detoxes them? Me. Do you have a doctor on board? No. A nurse on board? No. Therapy? No. How does this work? How does it work that nobody went back to drugs?
How did it work?
Nobody went back to drugs.
I don't get it.
100% success rate. Then from the frum world, it's like, oh, so you're Makar of these kids, right? So how did you make them frum? There was no Shachos Mincha Marav. There was no Yiddishkeit. There was no bribing. There was no, I'm not Chabad, so I couldn't ask them to put on tefillin. You know what I mean? And there was no Yiddishkeit involved. So how did they, why did they leave from? The 95% who left Shem Torah Mitzvahs, at our first graduation, 3 boys stood up in front of 400 people that came for their graduation. That a year ago, these guys were on the street, not from at all, literally hating Hashem, cursing Hashem. I had to hear this, and I needed siyata d'shmaya to know how to deal with it. And here they have 3 Eidela guys, hats and jackets. And I don't care about the hat. I care about, I didn't even think Shabbos. I thought maybe they'll one day, whatever. And how did that happen? 400 people were there, Masori Space Yaakov in 2004. And we had speakers come and embrace them. And okay, next 3, the next 3, the next. So after the first 10 kids all left from, means clean, stable, from, working. It was very bad for business. Reb Chaim Glantz is definitely an extremely meaningful person who was doing this he was around when I started. So he's probably a few years older than I am in this, business, quote unquote. he brought me a kid, and the kid was like, gangster, real gangster kid, and looking around, and he goes, "So what happens if I burn this place down?" I said, "Well, I'll still have a house, but you won't. Why would you burn down your own house?" And then afterwards he tells me, he says, "No, I found out about this. You make everybody here frum." Because all 10 guys, he was like, he would have been number 11. So I looked him in the eye and I said, "I promise you, it was an accident."
You won't be from. Don't worry.
It was true. I had no idea. How did I make them from? So he's like, no. I said, "So listen, you do what you want. Do you want to be from?" He says, "No." I said, "So you won't be from, but you can come here and you'll be part of the program. I can get you a job. You'll have fun every night with the volunteers. You'll have the whole thing. You'll write your rules for yourself." I got them all to write rules, which was great because they wrote the rules that I wanted them to write, and it was their rules. And that's a whole different thing of how I got kids to write their own rules, which was great. And they were, I said, 1 out of 10 I'll write, but I'm not more than you. It's your rules. So when they broke the rules, I'd be like, "Dude, you broke your own rule. Like, what are we going to do?" And I never threw anybody out. And of course they broke the rules because that's the ticket in. If you're not going to break rules, you didn't need home sweet home. You'd be in yeshiva. So they were all guys who broke rules. And when I dealt with them, when they broke the rules, I have so many beautiful stories about that. But
what was it like the process?
We don't have time for that.
What was the process like getting into home sweet home?
Oh, we don't have time for that either.
No,
There's
like
so much.
No, I'm saying like to get into Brisk, it's very hard.
This was as hard as Brisk.
Was it harder to get into home sweet home?
No. So what happened was, first, let me tell you about this kid. So I said, "You don't want to be from? Don't be from." I said, "And if you decide that you want to be from, so then you'll be doing what you want. So what are you worried about?" He's like, "I don't want to be from." Mm-hmm. So I said, "Listen, I promise you, I'm not going to do anything." He looks at me, he goes, "And that's the way you do it." So it's true, but I didn't know.
Smart boy.
A smart kid, but I didn't know that you make kids from by not trying to make them from and just embracing them and liking them and making them feel like they're VIP. They would literally, I remember one kid who grew up in Skver and he would say, "VIP, HSH is VIP. We made them feel like people. Guys who were discarded and thrown out of everywhere. And all of a sudden here, we put you on our shoulders. And when volunteers would come at night and take them out, and we had the most amazing, incredible volunteers, I'm so makar tov to them. And they would have 3 guys come up with cars, right? And take them out. So they were like 10 guys, 3 cars, and they were paying for the kids. And they would go to do anything. It was like a chevra. And they felt good. And that was the program. That at night you have to go and have fun with the guys. That was the program.
What happened with this boy?
The boy I didn't take? I don't know.
No, this boy he didn't end up coming to home sweet home?
He didn't want to come.
He didn't want to come to home
sweet home.
Because he knew your sister.
Figured me out. But I don't know what happened to him, but I know that this was an incredible thing in a time in the last 20 years where we have so many suicides, Rahman al-Itzlan, so many overdoses, Rahman al-Itzlan. And here you had kids who were really lost and heading towards even worse. To turn around their lives, begashmius, benafshius, and baruchnius, was magnificent. And just yesterday, one of the toughest kids that I ever took, when I took this kid in, he had 2 things in this world: his car and a gun. And when he handed me the gun and the keys to the car, I'll explain a different time why he couldn't have the car, but I knew we would be okay. And he was a dangerous, rebellious, ex-from Hasidic kid, angry at the world. He's the sweetest, yummiest guy. And I should show you the text. He just sent me yesterday with a big heart. He said, "I was just thinking about what you did for me. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
You saved my life."
Wow.
And he's married now with kids, and he's a good father, and he's a good person. He's a good Jew. And it didn't happen with an agenda. It happened because I really had no agenda. So it wasn't like come here and be from. It was come here and I like you. And I really did. And it didn't bother me, the external behavior. I saw that there's a reason, and I didn't know what it was until I really earned their trust. And one after another, they would open up to me and tell me stuff that they told me, "I never shared this with anyone." And unfortunately, it all pointed down to childhood trauma.
We'll be right back to this episode in just a second, but first a word from our friends at Town Appliance, the #1 appliance store in the entire world. Something very, very cool. If you head to their website right now, townappliance.com, do you know what they have that's like unbelievable? They have this thing called video guides. You can go ahead and there's dozens of videos of a refrigerator buying guide, wall oven buying guide, microwave buying guide, air conditioner buying guide. What does that mean? They take you into their store. They show you all the different types of items they have, what it looks like installed, what it could look like in your place, which one should you go for. You don't need to guess anymore. The guessing days are gone. It's customer service to a whole new level. And that happens only through townappliance.com. Make sure to reach out to them through their website, or you can WhatsApp them so simply. Send them a message on WhatsApp. So many of you I know had such a great experience through Town Appliance. And I appreciate that because you're supporting an advertiser of ours who supports us. And that's how we're able to put out these episodes. So I appreciate them. You appreciate them. I appreciate you. Mikam Chesral. How about it, right? That's what we say. Thank you so much. Make sure to head to townappliance.com. Now back to this episode.
It's so interesting. I saw something last night. There's this documentary called Three Identical Teenagers. Or Three Identical Strangers. It's the most fascinating thing. You need to see it. It's about 3 kids who are triplets, and they ended up finding each other in their 20s. They were born to a mother who gave them up to an adoption agency, wow. Louis Wise adoption agency, and the agency split up the triplets.
Wow.
And like we call hashgacha pratis, how this happened, how they ended up. I don't want to ruin it for anybody who wants to see it. But it came down, and once they got reunited,
should we tell them?
No, they know. No. What do you mean?
It's the 3 of us. It's incredible how I age so terrible, but you guys are aging much better.
You guys kept your hair in a way that I wasn't able to.
Mine even turned red.
Nobody would peg us as triplets, but
yeah. But anyways, it was the craziest thing, and they were going on tour. They opened restaurants. The triplets. They were going on every talk show. But then the question came: why were they split up? How do you split up how do you split up twins, triplets? How do you do that? And it came down to that this agency erroneously was doing a test to see if you split up twins, the psychological effect it'll have. And each of these kids, remember, every 2 months, 3 months, someone would come to the house, ask them questions, take videos of them. There was an entire test. Till this day, it's sealed in Yale University until 2066. What the results of this test was. They did this to several pairs of twins, wow. But it came down to nature versus nurture.
Right.
Nature versus nurture. A lot of these kids remember when they were little, they felt such anxiety and depression, and unfortunately, one of the triplets, ended up killing himself, and when he was 50 or something, because he couldn't recover.
Wow.
But the ones who remained, the common denominator was the nurture. And the unofficial result of the test was nurture can overcome all pain. What do you think about that?
There's no question. No question that every problem that we have, every problem has one solution, and it's love. And it's not a American concept. It's not a liberal concept. It's what the Chazon Ish said very clearly. It's what the Baal Shem Tov said very clearly. It's what all the Gedolim. It's one of the reasons I wrote Raising Royalty. People should see the quotes and open up and see how to deal with every situation in chinuch, from regular all the way down through life, through crisis, and hear what the Nesiv Shalom said. He said exactly what to do when your child is doing really bad stuff. Everybody, every tzaddik, every gadol, the Divrei Yoel, Schus Yagan Leinu, they all said the same thing. From Satmar to Lubavitch to everywhere, to wherever you go, the answer was always love. Reb Shach Zatzal, the leader of the Litvische Welt, he said, Hayom, today, and he wrote this maybe 40, 50 years ago, Mefachtim lasis liyiladam ahava, people are scared to give their children love. And people don't realize that the number one quality for your child's success in Torah is love. So people look at it like this American thing, like, no, I got to get my kid a tutor, and I got to get my kid this, and there's a lot to do for kids. But if you want your kids to succeed, not just emotionally, spiritually, shower them with love. He says you have to shower kids with love. He wasn't worried about them getting spoiled, and because of this little thing, don't spoil them, don't this, don't that. They have to learn that. That's not the Torah way at all from any Torah Mahalach, and especially when it comes to crisis. How we have this dark cloud that comes over, and I speak to so many Rabbanim, and I speak to so many people, and I'm like, we have Hira on this. We're not inventing this. Let's just stick to the Chazon Ish. Let's just stick. I was on the phone with Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky Shlita, and there was a problem about a car being driven on Shabbos. Okay, so he was the Daas Torah of that family. Besides for being my Daas Torah and sending me people, every family that comes to me has to have their own Daas Torah, because I want every family to know that they're following Ratzon Hashem. So a Satmar family, I got just this week a referral from both Reb Aaron of Satmar, Monroe, and Reb Zalman Leib of Williamsburg, Shlita, and they need to have a letter, a handwritten letter from the Daas Torah. So every family, if there's any shailos that comes up, they have to go to their Rav. And the four of us go together. So I speak to the Rav together with them. And this has been like this since the beginning. Because a lot of people on the outside, they see strange things. They're like, oh, and I don't say, I'm telling them what to do. And I have the armor of the Rabbanim who said that I'm allowed to, which are big Rabbanim, Rabbi Yosef Rosenblum, Zatzal, the Kasser Rebbe Shlita Zayin Gesund, Rabbi Moshe Wolfson Zayin Gesund, Rabbi Yosef, just so many. I have so many letters and saying that you're allowed to determine and decide whatever. I don't want it on my shoulders. Also, I want every family not to think they're following some balabas. I want them to feel they're doing Ratzon Hashem. You follow your Dayan, your Rav, your Rosh Hashiva, your Rebbe, and everybody's on the same side. So we were discussing it, and Reb Shmuel, those of you who know, the most humble person in the world. And every single phone call, parents out there who know, every time that a shayla came up on the phone with me, he would say, "Ya, was sagt Reb Avi?" What is Reb Avi? He called me Reb Avi. Like, seriously, I'm Avi. I'm your Talmud. I'm a little bit younger than you. And he would be always like, yeah, listen to whatever Avi says. And there are recordings of him saying it to people and directing people to listen to whatever I say and stuff like that. At the Agudah convention, we were sitting and we were talking about a boy of this family, this wonderful family, and he was their Daas Torah, and the boy was going away, and there was a girlfriend involved, and it was very, very, was sagt Reb Avi? And he always says, what is it? And I always said, Rashiva, they want to know what you have to say. They want Daas Torah. And so we always make sure that we have Daas Torah behind us on everything, especially when it's going against anything that we would normally do, halachically or hashkafically.
It seems like, you mentioned the Chazon Ish and Rav Shach, and we know many Rabbanim, and the seats that me and Momo have sat on, we heard this many times about the love factor is really, it's from the Torah. It's not from anywhere else. But what happened, along the way where you're not on the side of the majority, right? Your approach is challenged and it's questioned, and people will be like, well, you can give them this, why don't you kick them out?
Right.
What happened along the way?
I can't understand. I really don't understand.
I was hoping you'd have the answer to that.
No,
I don't either.
It's like a dark cloud came over Klal Yisrael.
The man-made problem? Like what happened?
I've never, I'll tell you a statistic, okay? I've never been on the phone with a Rav who told me that something that I thought the family should do, and they said no. And the Rav said no. I know the parameters, and I've never, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. You can't enable. If you enable, they're going to take advantage of you. We've lost thousands of kids. It's like literally you're going to cut off his arm now because of a concept. I would tell parents, like, even if the kid is wrong and they deserve, but they're 15. So they're going to lose their family and be scarred forever because of a mistake, and they're wrong. At 15, you're going to cut off. I said they'd rather you cut off their arm than say you don't belong in this house. And of course, it's so difficult. What about the other kids? Right. It took us 20 years. Yeah, I'll tell you, Rabbi Yaakov Bender, Shlita Zayin Gesund, he came to my group to speak to the parents. And right at the beginning, right before it started, he turned to me and he said, 10 years ago, we all thought you're crazy. And now we all know you're right. So the more extreme the situation, the more extreme our commitment has to be. So people would say, Avi, but why are you so extreme? I'm not an extremist at all. I only deal with very extreme situations. It's like the lahavdil, the chemo has to be as strong and targeted as the cancer. And I only deal with what I call stage 4. I made this whole thing up, the stages. Somebody asked me, what does stage 2 mean? I'm like, I don't know. I just made up stage 4 because people know, chas v'shalom le'aleinu.
Last resort.
That's really, that's what I deal with.
Right.
But everything applies to earlier stages, of course. And if enough people, and there are some smart people that start earlier and they never end up needing me. So I'm trying to put myself out of business as well. And everything is following Daas Torah.
So that I think is a good context, the way you just set that up, that construct, where once you're involved in the picture and your methods are necessary, people, at least now, maybe the 10 years later that Rabbi Bender was acknowledging, people have accepted that this is a necessary modality in crisis chinuch. And I think what we can potentially help people embrace today is, how do we expand the scope of this approach so that it's not only necessary in crisis and we're trying to undo a lot of trauma and help someone find their way back to a version of Yiddishkeit that the Gedolim in your sefer are saying is appropriate from day one. And how do we begin implementing these types of strategies and these types of mahalchim within Yiddishkeit to all of our children that are not experiencing necessarily yet any crisis, any signs of crisis?
Very good question. Very simple answer. Raising royalty. That's why I wrote it. I have been lucky. I've really been lucky that I had 15 years of collecting over 6,000 Divrei Torah and stories of Gedolim. In volume 1, I have about 700. And it's hearing and quoting exactly the story and the solution. And it's opening up the minds of people to realize, what do you do when your kid gets caught doing something bad? What does the yeshiva do with a student who's stealing from the other kids in the school? What did Rav Steinman say to do about the kid who got caught in the middle of Shir watching a movie on an iPhone in Eretz Yisrael? What do you do with every situation? We have Daas Torah on a kid in 4th grade who couldn't answer the question that when he was being tested. Everything has been already done, whether it's a Brista Zalman Meltzer, Zatzal, or it's whoever it is. I have hundreds and hundreds of stories that people send me and Divrei Torah that open up our minds. So that's why I decided to write this book, so people can start to open up our mind. The deepest question: what is parenting? What is education? What are we doing here? And so many people don't even know the answer to that. Somebody went to Reb Shlomo Wolbe, Zatzal. This is like the typical stuff that you'll find in my book. He said, I just became a mashgiach of yeshiva, and I want to ask some questions. Reb Shlomo Wolbe was the machanech of the prior dar with Reb Shach Zatzal and the Litvische Welt, par excellence, right? You're at the highest machanech. So he says, sure, come, let's talk about it. He says, so my first question is, when can I throw a boy out of yeshiva? So Reb Shlomo Wolbe tells him, you will never be a machanech. That's your question? It's like somebody says, I want to go to medical school. And the first day he says, I have a question. When can I pull the plug on a patient?
Yeah.
Like that's your question? Never. You sit there working on that patient forever and you refuse to give up. So your question as a machanech, that's your first question? That's the last question that hopefully if you're good enough, it'll never happen. And that's your opening statement? You will never be a machanech. And people don't know what parenting is. People say like parenting is discipline.
Well, we're not prepared for it. Like we kind of just get married in our 20s.
Right.
Or
You should
30s.
have to get a permit. You should have to have a course.
It's like the craziest thing. It's like, I remember when I had my first child, and it was actually during COVID, but like, so like they're at like literally less than a 24-hour stay in the hospital. And they're like, okay, you're going home now. I'm like, with the baby?
With him?
You're not like,
are you guys coming with me?
like, not only that, when I was like, they make the wife go out in the wheelchair. I was like wheeling on my wife, and like, I forgot the baby. Like, you guys really want me to leave with this? Like, come on.
It should be illegal, right? Like, look at me. I don't even have a hair thinking about growing on my face. I'm nachi, right?
Well, I shaved today, but like, I'm saying, like, every other profession, like doctor, pilot,
right.
Everything, you need to have schooling. Parenting, it's like.
And the sad part is, right, that the most impact on any child is from mom and dad. Yeah. It's not like an extra thing that on top of everything else, and they don't even know what they're meant to be doing. Somebody came to Shlomo Wolbe again, just popped into my head, a story. He wrote a book, and the book on chinuch was called When to Punish. he said, chinuch has so many facets to it. One of the little parts is that sometimes you have to punish and you have to know how to punish and when and where and what's appropriate. That's a chapter. That's not a title. The effect that you have on your children has nothing to do with discipline that you may occasionally need to do. And the Sfarim tell us exactly how to punish and when to punish and how to do it. And if you can do it according to what they tell you, you deserve a medal because you can't have any anger. Nesiv Shalom says, somebody who is angry, ki'ilu oived avodah zarah. Chazal, kol hakoyes ki'ilu oived avodah zarah. So how could you think shemei hakas hazeh, that from your anger you could be mechanech la'Hashem u'teirasai? Aser lechanech, you're not allowed to be mechanech when you're angry. So I want to see the parent who's doing chinuch when they're not angry. You're supposed to wait until the anger subsides. There was a big tzaddik, I forgot the name, it's in here, that he had a special jacket that he wore before punishing. And they asked him why. He said, because it takes time to go to that room and find the jacket, and that will help me cool off.
Wow.
How long did Yaakov Avinu wait to punish, to give musar, not to punish even, to give musar, to criticize Ruvain? Ruvain did something with the beds. How long did Yaakov Avinu, this is trivia for anybody out there.
Drum roll.
1,000 years.
Right here, we're going to have a commercial for raising royalty. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsor. 48 years.
Wow.
So Rashi asks in Devarim, "Mipnei ma lo hoichachticha kol hashanim alolu." Why didn't Yaakov Avinu, the original, who would not be angry, b'shas that, in the time of discipline, he wouldn't be screaming and yelling at the kid, and why did he wait 48 years? How long do you wait?
48 seconds.
Halavai, 48 years to give chinuch. Why? Rashi, it's an often open Rashi. So he says, you know why? Because he didn't want Ruvain to feel rejected and go hook up with Uncle Esav. And we're talking about the Bechar of the Shiftei Ka, not some kid in Far Rockaway or in Lakewood or whatever. We're talking about the Bechar of the Shiftei Ka, an adult. We're talking about Ruvain getting Musar from Yaakov. And Yaakov says, hang on, there's an outside factor here. I got to hold my tongue. And there's so many beautiful Divrei Torah, but I don't want to spend the whole time on that. Just on this, it's mamish beautiful. Someone asked, how come he did it now? On his deathbed. So why now? Oh, this is such nice stuff. You'll have to buy it. You'll have to buy the book.
Yeah, by the way, I don't read, but I'm going to read this. I really am.
You can read any page, and it's really eye-opening.
Why on the...
You really want the answer?
Yeah.
I don't know how long this is going to be. This is Momo's fault. Oh, just on this.
It's on me.
Just on this is so much eye-opening. So he was scared, and how would that really work? He's going to be down, and Uncle Asa is going to say, hey, Rubes, why are you feeling so down? And he's like, I don't know, Pop, my father, he, gave me Musar. He's right, that old man, you're never going to make him happy. Hey, why don't you come out with the guys tonight? And we could have lost Ruvain.
We're having lentil soup.
They were shooting. They used bows and arrows. When they played cops and robbers, they really shot people. We're going out bowling tonight. How about come? And maybe I'm gonna says Shimshon Pincus. Kayoim. Now in our day, when was Shimshon Pincus? About 30 years ago. Yeshnam harbe anoshim. There are many people. Me'olam achitzoni, from the outside world. Sharak mechakim sheyelet charedi yipolei tachutza. They're just waiting for a Jewish child to feel rejection, to open up that door, to run away. And they say, come with us. By us, Targish Tov. There are organizations.
There are organizations that do that.
By us, Targish Tov, you're going to feel good. You don't feel good there, you'll feel good here. So he was worried about it. So somebody said, Yaakov was on his deathbed, so he waited as long as he could. Okay. Somebody else said that he knew, the Medrash says that they knew that Yaakov and Esav are going to die the same day. So until now, Esav's a threat. But if I'm dying, Esav's dying, there's no more threat. Now I can give you the Musar.
Nice.
But it's brought down, and I forgot from who, but it's in here. Fascinating. So I forgot who it was. It would be much better with the name. Should have prepared. So he says, whoever this tzaddik is, he says, you worried about Reuven going OTD off the derech because his father gives him Musar? He says, no, I'll tell you a shot like this. Yaakov was midas ha'emes. Yaakov was midas ha'emes. That was him. Yaakov was, right? Esav was the midah of sheker. What was Esav's relationship with Yitzchak? He tried to fool him. Where were you And meanwhile, he was out killing, murdering, slaughtering. And he's like, oh, I was learning with my chavrusa. Yeah, right? Came in, I said, how do you do meiser? He tried to make himself look like a tzaddik. So he tightens up like this. Why didn't Yaakov give Ruvain Musar for 48 years? He said, I was worried that Ruvain will leave my midah of being open and honest and upfront with me. And he'll go be medabek be'esav achi, meaning he'll be medabek in the midah of Esav. And I'm going to say, how was yeshiva? And he's going to say, great. And how can I be mechanech a child if I don't know who he is?
Wow.
He was so worried. He wasn't worried about losing, he'll go off the derech. He's worried about that Ruvain's not going to be able to be open with him.
Wow.
Tati, I'm having a hard time. I don't have a chavrusa today. How was yeshiva? Yeshiva was great. The father told me, he asked his kid, he said, how was yeshiva? He said, how was this? The kid was an out-of-town yeshiva. He said, how was yeshiva this week? On Friday, right? So yeshiva was great. He got a call afterwards from the Rosh Yeshiva. Your son wasn't in yeshiva all week. He calls up his son. He says, I don't understand. I asked you, how was yeshiva? He said, I didn't lie. He says, yeah, you told me yeshiva was great. He goes, the yeshiva was great. I just wasn't there. Yeshiva was great and I was great. We just weren't great together. So he, like Yaakov was saying, I don't want my kids to pull away from me. I don't want my kids to feel that my parents can't handle this. And if you lose them on regular stuff and you can't hold your stuff together and you just like, I can't look at you, then when things get rough and they have real challenges,
not going to go to you.
They can't go to you and they can't tell you what they need. And that was Yaakov Avinu's fear.
We'll be right back. But first, a little conversation I had with Shmuel Sackett from the dreamraffle.com. Shmuel, take it away.
We are back here with Shmuel Sackett from the dreamraffle.com. If you haven't bought your tickets already, I don't know what you're waiting for. Of course, 2 for 1. You buy 3, you get 6. You buy 5, you get 10. You buy 50, you get 100. Use promo code MPP and you get $10 off over there. But you know what? It could be that maybe you already own a home in Israel. Maybe you live in Israel. Maybe you're 17. You're like, what am I going to do with an apartment in Israel right now? How about $600,000? Like if you win and you just want the cash, that's also a possibility. But, the money that's being donated is going to an amazing, amazing cause. And this year, we know it's been on hold. So March 11th is that drawing date.
Correct.
What's the excitement been like for this raffle, Shmuel?
You should know something, that when we stopped, we were 65% ahead of last year in terms of sales. So people are very excited. Then we put it on hold. Obviously, with what's happening, we were all jumping into action for that. And we're still, of course, very concerned with what's happening. But because there's so much need to help. I mean, we're helping purchase an ambulance, a bulletproof ambulance for Sderot. We're helping search and rescue. We're helping rebuilding Jewish farms around Gaza. I mean, those guys are there. They're back. Even though it's still called a shetach esh, a live military zone. Those guys are there, and they're trying to rebuild their farms, and we're on the ground helping them. All of this comes from funds from the dreamraffle.com. 2 for 1, as you mentioned, Nachi. A bonus raffle of $10,000 cash. And also, as you mentioned, you can take the cash alternative. All great win-win situation. Use code MPP to save an additional $10. And what can I say? I would love to give the keys and say, hey, where did you find out about the raffle? What do you mean? I saw it on Meaningful People. Thumbs up.
Vada, of course. Absolutely. I can't wait to win. So I can't wait to receive that apartment from you, Shmuel. Looking forward.
You got it.
I want to just commend what you're doing in your work and in this book specifically, because, we spend a lot of time highlighting this type of approach to parenting and to chinuch and even to education. And what has become very important is the endorsement of Daas Torah. So we'll have clinicians speak from a professional standpoint, and all of the instruction that they're providing is based on their clinical credentials. And they also add a Daas Torah endorsement. What you're doing here is you're saying that this relationship with your child, this open communication with your child, this is a Rashi and Chumash. This is Yaakov Avinu, and like it's all in the Torah.
And there's thousands and thousands. I'll tell you one piece of information which is very useful for, unfortunately, when parents have kids who are extremely, extremely far from the Derech HaTorah. It'll open your eyes, but then try to apply it to every single stage, okay? So there was a father that had a son, Nebuch, who was Machal Shabbos b'far Hesia, and it's painful. And one day the kid says, Dad, I want you to buy me a car. So the father says, you know, my dear son, I'm willing to buy you a car on one condition. What was the condition? Nachi.
You've got to be home at a certain time.
Okay, what do you say, Mama?
You drive safely.
Drive safely, okay. There's no one else in the room, so
How do I drive safely, Momo? Man, that's your bit, no? Like,
oh, have a safe trip?
Have a safe trip. Yeah, go on.
That you won't drive it on Shabbos.
Yeah.
I'll buy you a car, but Shabbos? You're going to be Machal Shabbos b'far Hesia, driving a car and putting yourself in that category, and I should pay for it?
Right.
You're going to take my money and do something so horrific? Right now, if you ask anybody, right, 99.9999% of people, and Rabbanim, right, and Rabbeim, and everybody would say, of course not. It's enabling. You're going to enable bad behavior? It's so confusing to the child. He's going to feel like, oh, so you don't care about me, or you gave up on me, or how does this work? No, I'm not going to let you go to Gehenna. I'm not going to be a part of you going to Gehenna. I'm not going to be any part of it. And this was a father that the kid was living at home. So I'll tolerate you, but I'm not supporting bad behavior. And that is very mikubal. That's very accepted. Okay. Kid said no deal. That's very accepted by kids who are, you know, off and struggling. He said, no deal. Kishehagia el Rabbeinu. When this question, this story got to the Chazon Ish, it's in Maise Ish. Chazon Ish, nobody argues on the Chazon Ish, not Hasidish, Litvish, nobody. He was Meyayitz, the father. You can look inside. Kedai, to buy, it's worthwhile to buy the car. Ki dafka b'derech zu. Because specifically by doing this, b'derech zu, of enabling, of supplying the bad, that's where you'll be able to influence the child.
Wow.
Now hold on. You hear that? Dafka b'derech zu, because the greatest influence is when you supply something that goes against what you believe in. Then the kid feels. And we have to understand kids and what their mindset is and what they're asking for and what they need and how to bring them back. According to the Chazon Ish, everything else you're doing for the kid, you're giving him money, you're letting him do what he wants outside. All of that is beautiful.
It's easy also.
It's easier, right? But dafka b'derech zu, it's better that he challenged you and he said, because this way, when he's driving and he knows mommy and tati bought it, it's not lifnei iver l'sitin michshol. It's not misayeya l'dei over avera. And you have to know, and that's why everything that we do, I always have a paisik. I want the paisik of the family to decide. And I have over 300 letters of rabbanim and paiskim from all communities. And anybody who's worked with me knows. I was just in group now. I have groups for parents after I train them in. And someone had a little minor question. I'm like, ask your Daas Torah. He's like, it's not a shaila. And he's a Rav. This guy, he's a choshev avrech. He was like avrech. He's learning for his whole life. And he's like, it's not a shaila. I said, you don't have this thing now in your house. If you're going to bring it in, you need your Rav if you're going to be under my care. Nothing goes under on my say-so, because they feel better and they understand that it's Ratzon Hashem. But how many people would think that you should buy the car? Now, so this challenges the rabbinical normal approach, the therapy world that would be against it completely, enabling and supplying bad behavior and losing the hook. Because the kid who, if you're allowed to, you must. Because dafka b'derech zu, tegadel hashpa'asay olav. So we have people who are just, you know, we're raised a certain way. And I always say, like, when your kid throws out the Dalet Chelkei Shulchan Aruch, it's time for you to embrace the fifth. The fifth chelik of Shulchan Aruch, people are not used to that, especially if you're very frum or not even frum, very straight. You type A personality and this is what you need to do and this is bad and I'm not supplying bad. But they don't realize then the kid, you just unhooked from them. Now this kid is emotionally an orphan and homeless because now, so they're 14 or 15 or whatever age. And now who does supply me? So I got to find someone who's going to give me what I want, and they will always get what they want. They are the most enabled population in the world. So you enable them so other people don't. So of course, then people say, okay, what about drugs? And what about this? Okay, you need to be under guidance. But the mahalach of all Daas Torah has always been, you give more than anyone else in the world. A guy told me himself, he was 65 years old, and he came over to me, Chassidish guy, Satmar guy, he said 50 years ago, my father went to the Satmar Rebbe, the Divrei Yoel, because my brother, who was 20, 21 years old, was a drug addict. And then afterwards, he got out of drug. He went to the police academy. And this is a long time ago. He was dating a shiksa, and he was completely machal everything. And my father was going crazy. And he says, I don't know why, but my father said, come with me. So this guy told me, I was 15. I was in the room with the Divrei Yoel. And there are many stories like this. Dayan Gruber, who's a big Satmar Dayan, called me up with a story, many stories. And the Satmar Rebbe told him after he cried and all of that, he told him, you give him more love than any of your other kids. Shower him with love. You buy everything for him. Everything should come from Tati and Mommy. And then the guy was like confused. He told him, I'll give you an example. Whatever money you give your kids, give him double. Let it come from Mommy and Tati. So this guy told me, my father left, sat down with my mother, and they changed course. Instead of constantly showing, people think like, if I'm going to show you that I'm not happy with you, eventually it'll sink in. It doesn't work like that. And the Rebbe knew that. And everybody knows that who's either deeply involved or is over 80, over 90. The Zikanim, Ziknei Hador always said that. Give it to them. Let it come from you. Don't make them get it from the street. He said, my father didn't have money. He borrowed $5,000. Okay, Google. How much is $5,000 50 years ago today? Like 50 grand?
Sure.
He borrowed it. And he put cash in my brother. My brother wanted to buy a tractor trailer and do whatever it's called, deliveries. Google's answering.
Answering on the phone.
Okay,
That's
he was
great.
doing deliveries. It was not a Jewish car, right? The biggest Jewish car we have is minivan. Anything after that is Gayish. And my father borrowed the money, put it in his hand. Your tractor trailer should come from Tati. What's the end of the story? See,
He started U-Haul.
Not only he became frum, not only turned his life around, he became Satmar. He became just like he has children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren today. But listen to this. He tells me, I'm in the middle of saying Kaddish for my father. I'm in the year. My father passed away. My father was sick for a year and a half. And during that year and a half, we have a big Satmar family. So when a Satmar guy says we have a big Satmar family, we're talking 16 plus, right? He says, everybody took care of my father. But Shabbos, it's hard to be in the hospital. This brother, I'm there. 2-day Yontif in a hospital, I'm there. 3-day Shabbos Yontif, I'm there. He was the closest one to my father out of all the kids. He cared for him and he was mishamish him. He took care of my father in every single way. And one day my sister cheppered him. She bothered him. She said, you're being nice to Tati because you're ashamed, you're embarrassed, you feel guilty for all the agmas nefesh you gave him. He said, guilt? I'm just quoting what the guy said. What this brother told me. Guilt? No. It's because I know he loves me more than all of you put together.
Wow.
He tells me it was true. A few days before my father died, he didn't talk. He didn't have any energy to speak. He wouldn't speak to anybody. When this brother walked in, he mustered up the few words to tell him and speak to him. He said he loved him more than anybody because he invested so much into that child and he knew it and he appreciated it because he could have been thrown out like hundreds of Satmar kids and all over who are disregarded and rejected and they're homeless or they're made to feel homeless. They're made to feel, I don't like you, I don't want you. And my parents, he tells me himself, he was made, they followed the direction of the Divrei Yoel, which was the same as all Daas Torah. I've never found a story that the Gadol says, throw him out of the house, throw him out of yeshiva.
I think the point that you're making now might be the key to unlock what Nachi was touching on before, which is as parents, we're sort of thrust into this role.
Yeah.
Without a lot of training,
There are a lot of beautiful parenting courses, and there are a lot of people as things, start chas v'shalom unraveling, and a lot of people don't know the difference between regular, normal rebellion, a teenage rebellion, which also there's hardly any difference. We have Rav Elyashiv Zatzal. Now, what's the face? Rav Elyashiv, what comes to mind? This big smile, huggy person? No. Okay, I never saw him smile. I'm sure he did, but he was the most serious, right? He was nifter at 105 years old or something like that. He was serious paisik. And it's brought down from him in a sefer that he said that today, in our dar, there is no such thing as small daicha. And his grandson came to my group and he said it on video that he also told him, same thing. There's no small daicha, there's no rejection. There's only yamin mekareves, yamin mekareves, yamin mekareves. So they said, what do you mean? You never ever reject? So he said, Rabbi Yashiv goes, so it could be maybe once in 70 years, you should do some rejection and then go right back to Yimin Mekarevis.
Wow.
This is a really Yashiv talking to Meir Sha'arim, talking to the Fromest people. So there's really not much of a jump between regular chinuch and crisis chinuch. And it's all about one thing. It's how you look at it. People are like, but I have to discipline. Like, Avi, don't take away my tools. You know what they say? If the only tool you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. Mm. So I'm taking away your hammer. Throw away your hammer. Okay? But
because we need the Yom Shekule Shabbos.
Right? But it's not like you're left without tools, because when you do the power of love and a child feels your love, he will be making trouble in a category, but you're saving him from being in a totally different floor of the building. You know what I mean? You're not going to get to that, because kids who feel tremendous ava from their parents, they'll make trouble, but they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So you don't even realize, people are like, I'm losing so much because control. Listen, communism fell. Control doesn't work. And you'll see over and over and hear quotes from every single gadol, from Litvish to Hasidish. How about this one? Reb Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, Zatzal. He said, true chinuch is all about the admiration that the child has for the parent. The admiration. Once the child is not admiring you, you're unhooked. He's going to find someone else to admire. He says, if your child admires you, then he will want to be like you, and he will behave not just when he's in front of you. See, control is when you're in front of me, but when you're not in front of me, I don't have any control. So I can get you to behave, wear yarmulke at the table, all the stuff, behave. But if I don't change the inside, then what happens when I'm not around? And he says the Lashon is so beautiful, you have to see it inside. I don't remember the exact words in Hebrew. He says, but I put the Hebrew in for these things because it's so heartwarming to see. He says, but if you do it right and your child admires you because you treated him properly and you didn't destroy that connection, your child will behave the way you want, even when you're separated by space, by time, and even by life and death.
Wow.
When your child thinks of the Demus Diuknoi, of you, it will
eternal bond.
You're with him always. You're always with him. You're always with him. And I have to say, the Nesiv Shalom, right here in these weeks, it's the most chilling. It's probably one of the nicest 5,000 Nesiv Shaloms that I like.
Top 5,000.
Top 5,000. I mean, it's incredible. Yosef HaTzadik, right? He was a teenager. He was thrown away from home. His brothers hated him. He was hated. He was like you, who played around with his hair, not like Momo. He was, creative. He had dreams.
I heard Yosef HaTzadik had red hair.
Oh.
You hear that?
You could be a reincarnation.
Red. I heard Yosef HaTzadik had red hair. Someone told me last week. Rabbi Ceremian told me that Yosef HaTzadik had red hair. Azai. Okay. Got Nachi Gordon, or Yosef HaTzadik, David HaMelech, Yosef.
Well, your hands aren't that hairy, you know what I'm saying? So listen to this. This is absolutely incredible. So Yosef HaTzadik's facing, like our kids, some of our kids are facing challenges. They could be in their room. They could be with a device and they can go anywhere, and parents don't even know about it, right? He was faced with a challenge that defined him. He won the challenge, and he became Yosef HaTzadik Midas Yesod forever. But it was a really big challenge, and he was all alone. The problem is not always the challenge, it's feeling all alone. And the Medrash says that Yosef was gone. He was a goner. The challenge was greater than him. If you go outside and there's one guy fighting you with a knife or with a gun, you're done. Okay? What happened? It says somehow, by Yimayin, he refused. Where did that power come from? It says the Nesiv Shalom. You know where it came from? Because one chapter before, when all the brothers came and they told Yaakov Avinu, forget about Yosef, he's lost, give up on the dream. This kid's gone. You had 12, now you have 11. Be happy with what you have. It says Vayimayin. Yosef had the koyach of Vayimayin because he had a father, Vayimayin Lisnachim, who refused to give up on him. And he says it had to be that way. Because if Yaakov would have given up on Yosef emotionally, Yosef would have felt all alone. There's so much going on here. The kamayim apanim lepanim keleva adam la'adam. There's so much spiritual power. He says he saw the Demus Diuknoi Shalavi, and he needed to, because when he saw his father's image, listen to the words in the Nesiv Shalom, he realized, I'm not alone. I'm connected. And it became a 2 against 1. So the two of you against someone with a knife you can handle.
Valt.
So the real key of parenting is when your kid is all alone in whatever situation and they think of your face, does it give them the emotional energy to know I'm not alone?
Wow.
It's not a 2-on-1, it's a 3-on-1. Mommy, Tati, and kid, you're not alone no matter what. Or when they think of you, they think, you know what? They never liked me. I'm a troublemaker. They're better off without me. And that could be the difference between life and death.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I want to mention something. I had a phone call the other day with a friend of mine, Moshe Majeski, and he was telling me in Indian today that he thinks is super important to touch upon is Saftlas. He said, I want to hear Rav Shach and Rabbi Nalbavitch Rebbe mentioned in the same sentence. So you mentioned
There it is.
So you mentioned, yeah, right.
It's in
There's your
Raising Royalty. They're both in here.
It goes further than that, by the way. You're about to be mind blown. You mentioned the Avodah Rav Shach. This book is sitting in front of me. I pulled it over to me. I
Randomly open it.
flipped open the book. You saw?
Yeah.
Page 113. My namesake. Lubavitch Rebbe. Rabbi Nachum Mendel Schneerson. A story right over here. It says someone told Lubavitch Rebbe that Jews who don't keep Torah and mitzvahs the whole year and only show up on Shul Yom Kippur are merely playing dress up. To which the Rebbe replied, on the contrary, the whole year they're playing dress up, and one day of the year their true essence shines. And I just found like, mamish, I opened up the book, I just went like that.
Do it again.
Right?
Let's go.
Rashach! No, I'm kidding. Doviafi, actually.
Just go for the red. The red is the call out.
The Nesiv Shalom.
Oh.
Even if a Yid intentionally sins against Hashem, he is judged as someone who sinned unintentionally.
Now, how does that make any sense? Drives people crazy. So you got to read the book and you got to learn.
Yeah.
You got to understand why. Why? I want to go back to what I was saying before, that when a child thinks of you, it could be a difference between life and death. So first of all, sometimes when we talk very extreme, so people don't connect it, it's for every kid. It's a second grader, it's a fourth grader, it's a sixth grader. It's every single age and stage. And you don't know where your kids are going to end up being and what fights they're going to be fighting. And it's so necessary. But even especially when it comes to drugs and stuff like that, and kids who are suicidal, and in that area, I'm going to tell you a mind-blowing story. We're going to take a commercial break for raising, I have to make my own commercials, Raising Royalty, which took me 5 years to write, 15 years of compiling. And it has a beautiful foreword by Rabbi Noman Eisenberger. And it has amazing haskamos from everybody. For $25, you get 15 years of my work.
This is $25? That's it?
That's all it is.
This thing has got like 1 million pages.
Yeah, it's hefty.
460.
It's big. It's a lot. Also in the
500
back.
pages.
See what you have there in the back?
Yeah.
I put together tefillas and skulas throughout the ages of Torah.
You're going to have to say that story. You got to end this off with this story.
We're going to come back. Oh, that's the segue to leave.
Right back.
I always knew about a segue between one part and another. I didn't know segue. Oh, your flight is about to leave. So before you leave.
You have a flight, Avi?
So here's a story. It's a true story. All my stories are true. This boy had a very tough life. And even though his parents were doing everything that they could, following my advice, very extreme stuff because it was extreme. The kid was thrown out of many rehabs. The kid was very suicidal. And one day he decided, I'm going to kill myself. So he had a lot of pills. And he took these pills, and he had about 50 pills. He took a cup of water, and we were zeicha to 3 miracles. He started taking 1 pill, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And luckily, for some reason, he took a small cup. He ran out of water. Miracle number 1, there was a pause. Because if he would have finished the pills, he would be dead. He went to refill his water. Miracle number 2, as he's refilling his water in the middle of committing suicide, he took his phone with him. Who does that? Can you imagine jumping off a building and answering the phone on the way down? He's in the middle of killing himself. He posted before doing this. In those days, it was Facebook was much bigger than now. He posted goodbye to the world. Okay. Somebody called his father. So while he went to refill the water, his phone was with him, and he stays there and he goes 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23 pills. And right then, miracle number 3, his father found out about it and called him. When he looked at his phone, there was a picture of his father that showed up. And he looked at it. That was his Mustiyuknai moment. And he said, I can never do this to him. He'll never get over me. He picked up and he said, call the hospital, call Hatzalah. They got to pump my stomach. I'm in the middle of overdosing. If he would have looked at his father and said, he's better off without me, he never liked me anyway. He had 8 kids, so he'll have 7. They'll sit shiva and they'll move on. I'm a pain in the neck. I cost them so much money, aggravation. They're better off without me. He would be dead. He's alive because when he saw his father's love, his father's care, his concern. That's everything. And you have to do regular chinuch without losing that. And if you can't, then don't do the regular chinuch. Because this is more important than anything you could possibly do. Giving those eyes to kids and looking at them and criticizing them. Do whatever you want, as long as you don't lose that. A friend of mine called me up and he goes, I know what you're going to tell me. You don't give regular advice. You don't give chinuch. Just tell me. My kid did something. You told me what it was. Regular kid. Can I punish him? Like, you don't need my permission. And he goes, Avi, just as a friend, just tell me. So I asked him a question that I don't know if anybody else would ask. I said, when's the last time you punished him? Because that makes a really big difference. If it was a year ago, you could do whatever you want to him. What's your relationship with the kid? You get along great and you just need to punish him? And once a year, once in 6 months? Okay, calm down. Don't get angry. Punish him. Okay, stick to the rules of regular chinuch. Take any regular chinuch book. That's fine. They're all good. But if you're punishing him like the last time was 3 days ago or a week ago or a month ago and your relationship is not good and he doesn't think you care about him, he knows you don't like him for whatever reasons, then you better get some help fast. Because if a kid walks outside thinking my tati, my mommy don't like me, they don't understand love. They don't like me, you're in big trouble because they will find somebody else who does like them. That's how this works.
Wow. I think it's so important to highlight something that as you're describing this approach, it's striking to me that every single parent has this capacity to love their child in this manner, and they just need to unleash that capacity.
Exactly.
When you talk about a surgeon and a pilot, those are skills that are being acquired. There's nothing innate about being able to be a pilot. You have to go to school, you have to get trained, and you have to acquire that skill. But the reason we're all thrust into this without any credentials is because by virtue of having a child, that capacity for infinite, unconditional love exists. And now we just have to cultivate it and unleash it and enjoy it.
Absolutely true.
And by reading Raising Royalty,
that's going to happen. That's going to happen automatically. And you're not going to feel like you're following some guy from Flatbush. You're going to be like, hey, this exact story happened over here from this and this gadol. And look what they did. And there's just amazing stories out there. And it changes our mindset of what's my tafkid of having children. And yeah, it's really hard because a lot of us grew up in a different culture. Today, it's all about emotions. Today, the kids need your time and you need to have fun with them. You're not going to feel bigger than them and succeed. And one of the biggest mechanchim of our dar is Rav Yaakov Yosef Rav Yaakovson. I forgot his first name. Not Y.O.I. Jacobson, who I love, and we're very, very close, and he's great. But Rav Yaakovson in Eretz Yisrael was already a long time. He was a mechanech for a very, very long time. And he says that when Lavan was chasing Yaakov, it says Yaakov, he says, Achai, my brothers. And Chazal tell us that he's talking about his children. So he called his brothers children. He called his children brothers. So Rav Yaakovson says, very nice. He called his children brothers. But why now? Why right now? He says, you know why? Because you could be the tati and you could be like, higher than them and try. But when the guy wants to come and kiss your kids, because he said, these are my kids, and he started hugging and kissing them, the guy will kiss dana kinder. You have goyim out there, the guy kite, it doesn't have to be a person. Then they want to embrace your kids. Then it's time for you to get off your high horse and say, my brothers, act like a brother. Act like a brother and don't act like the typical father. Where it's interesting because everybody thinks that respect of the father, the Chavetz Chaim, who wrote the book on halacha, literally wrote the book. His children said that he let them sit in his seat. He wasn't makbid, tati's seat, wait for tati, do for tati. So many things that we're so, and my children know also, I say, I don't want that. I don't want fake covet. I want real covet.
Yeah. Avi Fishoff, thank you so much. We're going to have part 2.
Gewalt.
I'm going to leave you with one thought. Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, Shlita, so sein gesund. The brother-in-law of Reb Chaim Kanievsky, Moran Sarah Torah Zatzal, son-in-law of Reb Elyashiv Zatzal. He says that Chodesh Av, the month of Av, has 2 names, 2 titles. Menachemav, and Mishenichnas Av Mematem B'Simcha. He said parents need to know that you need to be a Menachemav, a parent that brings nechama to your child. You're the hug that they feel the most. This is my home. This is my place. These are my people. These are my peeps. You have to be a nechama to your children. They're going to go through stuff. They're going to go through difficulties. You're that place that they go and they feel loved and accepted and they feel your warmth and protection, and that builds them up. And not Mishenichnas Av, that when the tati comes home from work, Mematem B'Simcha, the mood goes down because, everybody's nervous because mommy walked in and tati walked in and you're tense and you're upset. And that's what we have to remember. We have to be the place that our children can come and share with us anything. And we can't blow that on the little stuff. There's a much bigger picture over here that we're after. And there's so much more to speak about on crisis all the way down to regular. And there's really not that much of a difference, because it's just that with crisis, in order to bond with the child, nebuch, we need to do those things. And with regular kids, Baruch Hashem, you have regular kids, take them out to a nice restaurant, just with mommy, just with tati. Give them, this world today is about emotional pain and emotional love. Every problem we have today is emotions. Something that regular parents, 50, 60, 70 years old, they didn't have this growing up. We weren't entitled to emotions. Nobody said, how are you feeling today emotionally? Like, what? There was no emotions. Sit in your seat, behave. And it worked. It was beautiful. Now everything's emotions. Everyone's feeling.
Kids get mental health days off from school. It's pretty cool.
It's incredible. So either we're going to go ahead and we're going to change to understand the language of our children and the language of even adults, people not acting right. It's because something's bothering them. When the Novominsker Rebbe, Chus Yagan Aleinu, came to TP Group, he told us, there's a vart that we need to remember when raising children. It says, Tachas shel yavadata Hashem alikecha b'simcha. Now, it could have said, Tachas means because. There's a lot of different words for because, right? There's a Yossi Green song, 7 words, key. There's a lot of different words, because. Why does it say Tachas? So it says in Chassidish Svarim, Dahainu nu, right? Dahainu nu, right?
Dahainu nu.
Are we going to do that? Are we going to do Yossi Green imitation?
Yossi Green also has 7 voices, no? Because you ever hear him sing? There's
another
like 8
dear
of them.
friend of mine.
Sure.
Another very dear friend of mine. We spent many hours in the studio together and we wrote songs together. Some songs of Solid Gold were co-written together with him.
Nice.
Back to what we're saying, said the Rebbe, Tachas asher yavadatas Hashem lekecha b'simcha. If you see somebody not serving Hashem with happiness, there's a tachas. There's something under it. There's a reason. There's a reason why somebody is not behaving properly, because everybody wants to behave properly.
Avi Fishoff. Shkoyach. That's out.
Thank you.
It's an honor being here.
Of course.
Now, I want to present to you guys, I got for each of you a set of GPS, CPR,
How are you over there?
and Raising Royalty.
I'm going to start a bookstore.
Here you go.
Thank you.
One for you and one for Momo.
Thank you so much.
You go home and you say, listen,
Now I know how to get home.
The GPS.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Again, I can't wait to see your comments, what you thought, in the comment section over here on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple specifically, leave a review. I will read the review. Avi would probably read the review. We'd love to hear what you think. Suggestions you make, some stuff that you were, you found that worked in your parenting life, or maybe a question you have, and maybe Avi can answer in the comments. Go ahead and send that. Looking forward to bringing you many more episodes. Hit that subscribe button, but not only hit the subscribe button, Sruly, what else they should do? Give me a ding over here. Hit that bell. Hit that bell and be notified when our episodes come out, because you know what? Sometimes I'll shock you and put out a video on the Meaningful People page that's like, whoa, how did I miss this? It's incredible, that YouTube short. Where did that come from? That's amazing content. Yes, that's what happens, but not if you hit that bell. You're gonna love it. I love it. I love you. We love it together. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this episode. And we will see you again next week here at the Meaningful People Podcast.